I'm probably going to piss some people off when I say this, but if you are a Christian woman who is single and who desires to be in a healthy, loving marriage, your church might be your biggest ops. That might be the thing that is keeping you single. Hi, my name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach and I'm also a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to heal from their unhealthy relationships and help them learn how to attract healthy, loving relationships. And I think that something that we need to acknowledge is that there are certain things happening in churches that are keeping Christian women single. And it doesn't have to be the case because churches are supposed to be a home for us. They're supposed to be a place where we get nurtured. Um, they're supposed to be a place full of love, and they're supposed to create an environment that helps us achieve our dreams and fulfill our purposes. But yeah, I think they unintentionally keep a lot of women single with some of the patterns that I often see in ministries. And, for background, I grew up Pentecostal. My dad is a preacher, and I've seen a lot, right? um, don't get me wrong. I love church, still am Christian, still love God, all of that. But there are a lot of messages that I see in churches that are holding women back. And I want to talk about, I think I have my notes. I want to talk about four of them that I have seen. And let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you disagree with me. Because I see this whenever this discussion comes up, there's a lot of, oh, you're just going to the wrong church. Or no, if you're really Christian, you wouldn't believe that. And honestly, I think some of y'all who say that are delusional. Like, I have seen this in churches throughout my life. And I think that if we really love God, if we're really serious about spreading the good news and spreading the gospel, then we need to have a healthy environment for people who didn't grow up knowing God. We need to have a healthy environment for those people to come in. And that means sometimes holding our churches accountable so that they can get to that environment, right? But that being said, okay, so the first message that I see as being problematic is the emphasis on that Bible verse, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. At face value, nothing wrong with that verse, nothing at all, right? But usually when churches are preaching this, there's this kind of implicit message telling women to just sit down, shut up, and wait, right? If a woman has the audacity to go out there and actively pursue being in a relationship, and then something sets her back, maybe she's not getting a lot of dates in that current season, or she was in a relationship and it ended, and she is naturally a little bit frustrated by the fact that there's some hiccups in this progress, right? Or in this process. She's naturally frustrated by that and she has the nerve to voice that frustration, then the first response is, oh, he that findeth a wife, he that findeth a wife. Two problems with that. One, it invalidates women's feelings, particularly if you are a successful woman and you are used to going out there, setting a goal and achieving it. And now you have this one area in your life where it is a little bit more complicated, it's not as simple. Then, of course, you are going to be frustrated and you are allowed to have those feelings, right? Like, don't let anybody tell you that your feelings aren't valid. The other problem with that, though, is it teaches a lot of other women to be passive, right? So it creates this idea that if you take any initiative, you are doing something that's unbiblical, or you're doing something that is desperate or thirsty, right? And that doesn't make any sense because you wouldn't treat any other aspect of your life this way. If you had decided that you wanted to be a doctor, you would not graduate high school and then just sit and wait for the right hospital to come along and recruit you. You would have gone to college, you would have gone to med school, you would have done residency. If you had a goal to get out of debt, you wouldn't just sit and let your bills pile up and just hope and pray. Um, he that findeth a lottery ticket findeth a good thing, right? Um, so we don't treat our other goals this way. Why would we treat dating and marriage and relationships in general that way? Especially when I think that marriage is one of the most consequential things that you can do in your life. Choosing the right partner impacts every other aspect of your life. So if we believe that, and if we treat marriage as sacred and we take it seriously, why would you be so passive about it? Don't get me wrong. I don't believe in chasing after men, right? Um, I would never want a woman to do anything that truly comes from a place of desperation. And I also believe that you are worthy of love, you are worthy of being pursued, all of that. But there is a far and wide spectrum that from desperate to simply creating opportunities for yourself. And you should be able to do those. There is a healthy, feminine way to set up an environment that makes it easier for you to meet the right men. This is what I spend the majority of my time with my clients working on is how do you put yourself out there and create those opportunities? And how do you do it while still staying in your feminine and not feeling like it's coming from a place of push and desperation or that you're going to have to settle, right? So faith is not passive. You know, you can hear that, he that findeth a wife. And again, I do think it's true. I think that men's lives become elevated when they put the right women by their side. At the same time, I also believe that faith without works is dead. So if this is a goal of yours, then you have to put in some work in order to achieve it. The other message that I see a lot of times in churches, and granted, I'm not saying that this is purposeful and that this is some conspiracy theory that churches are just trying to keep women single. A lot of times I think this is unintentional, but there is a message out there that, to my first point, if you are doing the things to put yourself out there to be in a relationship, that you are a Jezebel, a harlot, a whore, insert whichever word of your choice. Um, And women are afraid of being seen as loose or less than because they are trying to create these opportunities for themselves. I can think of when I was in my early 20s, I went to a singles event at a church, which is problematic to begin with, because oftentimes the ratio of women to men at these things is horrendous. And it ends up just kind of being a meet your new bestie women's networking event instead of a singles event. But I remember going to one where I was surprised because there was actually a decent mix of men and women there. But when I arrived, all the men were on one side of the room and all the women were on the other side of the room, talking amongst themselves and never in between shall meet. And I saw this and was going to just go with the flow, hang out on the women's side, no big deal. Problem is, I got bored and it was football season. I am a big football fan, especially college football. Go Cox. And because of that, I ended up overhearing a couple of guys on the men's side talking about an upcoming game. So I walked over there, ended up just joining the conversation. Again, not even really trying to date anyone in that group of guys that I was talking to, just being bored, just having conversation. And the looks that I got from the other side of the room, you would have thought that I was killing puppies or something. It was just didn't make any sense to me because if you're at a singles event where the purpose is to talk to people, meet people, then you should be going and meeting people. But again, you see this all the time, and it makes women afraid to have conversations, which are critical if you want to be in a relationship. It makes women afraid of doing any type of work um, towards this goal, which, again, to me, the goal of wanting to be in a healthy relationship is no different than any other goal of making money, losing weight, getting healthy, growing out your hair. They're all goals. They all require effort and work, right? So it leads to women playing small and dimming their light because they don't want to be seen as fast. They don't want to be seen as thirsty. And there are enough messages in culture in general that shame women. I don't think the church should be a place of shame. The church should be a place of love and nurture. We have got to do better at finding a way we talk about giving people grace, right? And yes, when people make mistakes, giving them grace, allowing them a space where they can seek repentance and heal and all of that is important. But we also have to do better of giving people the freedom to really learn who they are, really step into their full selves, and again, not dim their lights and not play small. And if they make some mistakes along the way, then yeah, you address that. But it can't just be that you cower in a corner in fear for the rest of your life. Um, the other problem, the third problem that I see in churches a lot is that women are the backbone of churches. I kind of find it hilarious whenever I hear arguments about how women shouldn't be preachers because, when Jesus resurrected, the first people he appeared to were women, right? Um, he made them the evangelists going out and spreading the news. You could say they were preaching about the fact that Jesus had risen, right? And even today, even in churches that are very patriarchal and have only had male pastors and only allow men to be preachers, they still have women running things everywhere else, right? It is your female volunteers who are typically the secretaries. It is your female volunteers who are cooking, who are cleaning, who are oftentimes teaching Sunday school, who are running your vacation Bible school, who are running all these other events, sometimes leading the usher board, leading choir. You allow women to run everything else. And oftentimes it is to the point of running women ragged. I see this a lot. And I experienced it. There was a point in my life where I stepped away from church completely for, I don't know, like 2 years. And the reason why was because I was so burnt out after years of being a Sunday school teacher and being an usher and running children's church, being on the choir, being dance ministry, kitchen staff, doing all the things. I was just so burnt out that I had nothing to give, right? This can lead to resentment in the church. And then as far as relationships go, first of all, it can hinder a woman's social life. So she can't go out there and create these opportunities to meet people, right? Because she is in church 24/7, always doing things, always volunteering. And then also, when she does meet someone, she is so burnt out that she doesn't have the capacity to give to a relationship, to really nurture that relationship. Yes, I believe that service is important. And I think that being able to serve in a church is a beautiful thing. When faith is a foundation of your life and you have this opportunity to serve and help lead other people and show those people how faith changed your life and how it can possibly change theirs, I think that's beautiful. At the same time, we have to have balance. It's one of the things I talk to my clients about is yes, the balance between masculine energy and feminine energy, but also the importance of having a balanced life in general. And God calls us to be good stewards. Stewardship is preached all throughout the Bible. And that means being good stewards of not just your money, but your other resources as well. And those resources include time and energy. So we have to be very intentional about how we steward our time. And that means sometimes setting some boundaries, getting over people pleasing tendencies, and not saying yes to every single thing, knowing that you also have your own life to live as well. Um, the fourth thing that often leads to churches keeping women single. And if I haven't said this before, I want to say that I don't necessarily think that this is intentional. I don't think there's some conspiracy of churches trying to keep women single. But I do think that there are some things that are so ingrained in Christian culture that we have to address them and we have to do something about them. So the other thing is turning marriage into an idol. You know, we say, God says that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Yet we preach so much about marriage being the end all be all that women sometimes end up turning marriage into an idol. And by proxy, they turn their husbands into an idol. They turn their husbands into a god above God. This is detrimental in so many ways. One, you have women who end up in unhealthy, sometimes downright abusive relationships that won't leave, that won't get themselves to safety because they have put marriage and their husband on such a pedestal. You have women who are not necessarily in abusive relationships, but just relationships that aren't the best fit for them, that just aren't the healthiest. And they're staying in those instead of pursuing God's best because marriage has been idolized so much that they just settled for the first thing that came along, right? Um, you basically end up with women who are trapped, who shrunk themselves and then settle in order to fit a church-sized box. And I don't think that God wants us to be married for marriage's sake. In fact, there are a lot of women nowadays who don't want to get married at all, don't want to have children at all. And I think that that is beautiful too. There's a purpose in their lives that does not revolve around domesticity. And if that's the case, they should also be supported. Instead of marriage being made as such an idol, we should encourage people to pursue what purpose looks like in their lives, which means that these women who are child free by choice and who are unmarried by choice should also get support and should also have attention paid on them as well. But for the women who desire marriage, um, again, God doesn't want you to just be married. He wants you to be in a relationship that is aligned with his purpose for your life. And that sometimes means waiting a little longer instead of settling for whatever comes along. He wants you to be in a marriage that reflects his love for you, which again means not settling for foolishness. So I want you to know that you don't have to keep playing small. You don't have to wait passively. You don't have to drown in church work, burning yourself out, right? You can honor God and still actively participate in your own life. That's why I created my coaching program. It's called From Toxic to Thriving. And it's all about helping Christian women break free from those old patterns, heal from past relationship trauma, And that's not just trauma from dating and relationships. That's also family trauma, friends, and yes, church hurt as well, right? Um, and help women learn how to step boldly into the season of dating with intention and doing so with discernment and with confidence. So if you feel like these church messages are causing you to be stuck, this is the program for you. And there's a link in my description, and we can get together and talk about what that looks like, what that plan will look like for you. So, in the meantime, yes, I believe that God's promises are yes and amen. And if you desire marriage, I don't think that God is a tease. I think that that desire was placed on your heart for a reason. And you should do the things that you need to do to achieve that. Because again, I also believe that faith without works is dead. I think that is the most faithful thing that we can do is to not sit around and be passive, but to show God, okay, I believe that you have this thing for me, in this case, marriage. And because I believe that, I am willing to invest. I'm willing to invest my time and my energy into improving my communication skills. I'm willing to invest my time and energy into putting myself out there, allowing myself to be vulnerable. I'm willing to invest and make some sacrifices in joining networking groups and events instead of just staying at home scrolling social media all day because I believe that you have this for me and I want to make myself the best person that I can be as I prepare to enter into this relationship and enter into this marriage. I think that that is how we show our faith by showing that we're willing to put in the work to make an environment that can sustain that blessing. So you're allowed to serve and to also pursue your own joy. And you're allowed to be holy and be happy as well. We cannot allow we cannot allow these situations where we play small, where we settle, and where we passively let God's less than best come into our lives, right? So, again, let me know what you think. Let me know your own experiences with maybe feeling like church has held you back from going after the life that you want. And let me know what you're doing to change that as well. And also, shout out the positive as well. If you do attend a church where you think that like their singles ministry is great, don't just say my church is great. Say specifically what you've learned that has helped you to create better relationships. But in the meantime, be intentional about going after the things that you want in life, relationship wise and otherwise. I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Bye.